Good afternoon and welcome to our July Ranching 101 webinar presented by AgTrust. Today you will learn about market trends, best practices in herd management, and actionable steps to maximize your returns. Before we start, please join me for a short message from AgTrust. I want to remind everyone to join us on August 20th for our next Ranching 101 webinar, Beef Exports Equal Producer Profit. Auctioning well over 2,000 head weekly at their family-owned auction barn in West Texas, Brian Utmore has decades of experience in maximizing profitability. For over 40 years, Utmore has witnessed firsthand what drives success in the sale barn. Today, Utmore will share key strategies and decisions that will significantly impact the profitability of your calf sales. If you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them in the chat box. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Brian.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I kind of geared this toward the small producer, small operator, trying to help them get a little air out of your trial, produce something that'll give you a little success when you come to a sale barn. Webinars and PowerPoints aren't my deal. I'm just kind of a guy in the trenches with dirty shoes and kind of hands-on. So I want to thank my better half, Carissa, for helping me with this PowerPoint, and Bren for the webinar and all this stuff. And hopefully I can teach you a little something about selling a calf. Start off a little bio about me. My parents bought the sale barn in 1980. I was 12 at the time. The reason I go there, it was, I went from a kid having a stay-at-home mom, 3 square meals, life is pretty easy, pretty good, to hey son, we're kind of broke. We got an 18% interest paying this note. You're gonna have to buckle down and help us out and figure it out, along with the rest of us. And that's kind of what it did. Made me a little tougher, made me a little grittier. I really appreciate that. And that's kind of what it takes to make it in this industry. If you're looking for something with a bunch of safety nets or government handouts, or, you're afraid of failure, might not be the side gig for you to get on. But if you want to do some hard work, do some great labor, learn some great things, be around some great people, I think it's an excellent industry. Graduated A&M in 92, did the old corporate job thing. I lasted 3 months. I grew up in that hands-on, straight up environment where if you made a mistake, you might get fussed at or cussed at. They couldn't tell me, a direct answer. So my brain just did not work. It wasn't suited. Something came up. I had a position open up back home. Went back there. I've been there ever since 1992. Started auctioneering about 3 or 5 years later, and I've been doing it ever since. The main goal is I wanted to ranch myself. That was kind of, I wanted to own land. I wanted to have cows. Got a little cow herd. Try to buy some calves every week, put together load lots, sell them as feeder cattle, or send most of them to feedlot. But I do sell all my calves off my cows to the sale barn, because I do really believe in that marketing system is a very good way to sell them. And I've helped a lot of people, or tried to help a lot of people get started, in the industry. I guess next slide. What is the purpose of an auction market? Basically, it's a place where we discover price, fair and open competition, animals presented. You have competitive bidding out front and open. Is it a perfect system? No. Does it work pretty good? Yes, it does, especially if you're dealing with a small herd, small group of cattle that need to go several different locations. It works pretty good. Basically, we're just a big filing system. We're trying to fit, imagine a file drawer you open. We're trying to put the A's in the A file, the B's in the B file, the C's in the C file. That's basically what those buyers are trying to do. They have restrictions, they have weights, they have prices that they're trying to fill. They're trying to put those animals in the right category to build a uniform, basically truckload lot, go from basically a wholesale product to a retail product. And we're kind of the bridge and the gap between that wholesale and retail. We predominantly serve guys with smaller herds starting out, 25 head, 30 head, 5 head, 1 head. That's where we really provide our service. When you get into the truckload or the big lots, they kind of bypass us, which is kind of normal. Talking about that wholesale product, let's say you take a calf that's never been touched. He comes right off your cow. We sell him to a guy. He's going to vaccinate. He's going to castrate. He's going to put him in that right file, make a 50,000 pound, uniform truckload lot, same sex, same type, same genetics, and he's going to either sell them or retain them, whatever he chooses to do. We're also basically a distribution center. Let's say you have 5 calves, 3 steers, 2 heifers. They all weigh a little different. They're different colors. They might end up going 1,000 miles apart at the end of the sale. Well, it would be impractical for you to have to take those calves 1,000 different miles to get them sold. So we serve as like a distribution center where those guys can come and meet and put bigger groups together and make the logistics a little more economical. Next slide. My goal as a market operator, provide opportunity for the seller to earn the most money. How do I do that? I got to get the buyers there. And how do I get the buyers there? Volume really helps. If you don't have the volume, it's hard to get the big buyers to show up. They get paid on pounds. They don't get paid by the hour or a daily wage. They get paid on whatever they buy. Whatever they buy has to fit their file, like I was talking about earlier. So they get paid by the amount of pounds they buy. So they're looking for volume. That's kind of what they want. Try to provide them quality cattle. They'll have an order from the plainest one to the best one. But if you can provide them good, healthy, usable cattle, it'll keep them coming back. Try to sort those animals accordingly. Like, we don't want to sell a packer cow when we're trying to sell stocker feeder calves, or we don't want to sell a cow calf pair to a packer buyer. So we kind of have 4 segments in our sale, and we try to match those animals up to present them to the right buyer at the right time. We also got to do it very efficiently. Time is money. It's like picking a tomato off the vine. Once you pick it, it needs to go on the shelf. It needs to go on the table as quick as possible. When you pull that calf out of your pasture, he needs to get sold, get to the ranch as promptly, as fast as he can to maximize his outcome. We got to do it with animal welfare in mind. We got to treat the animals right. Got to try to reduce stress. Less stress animals just perform better. It's just better. And we got people watching us. And we try to have a welcoming place to do business, clean, comfortable customer service. There's a lot of things we can't predict. There's a lot of things we don't know the outcome, but hopefully we can place a good place for your cattle, to wait till they get sold, get the guys loaded out, get you unloaded, and get you a guaranteed bonded check. You know, our check has to be good to the seller or we're done. You know, that's the risk we take. We sell them, we hand you your check. We have to a lot of times wait on the buyer to send us a check. So that's part of our job. Part of what we get paid to do is cover the money. So next slide. Your goal as a seller, quality cattle. You know, what's quality cattle? Conformation, frame, body condition. How's that animal going to perform? You know, what's he going to do once he leaves your ranch? You know, how well is he gonna what kind of piece of meat is that animal going to grow into? That's basically what this whole deal is we're growing steaks, we're growing hamburger, we're growing meat out of the resources we were given, so that you know, anything that'll help maximize that, make it more efficient, make it better, will make your end result a lot better. You gotta bring healthy cattle. It's just next to impossible to sell a sick one. You know, vaccinate, castrate, wean, any of those things you can do to help maximize that, make that transition period easier on the animal, is going to be in your favor. Here's one that a lot of people don't think about is transportation to the selling point. You spend 364 days raising this calf, and then you throw him in a beat up old trailer with a hole in the floor or slick floor. He comes in down, crowded, unloaded properly. You know, minimize the stress on that animal. Bring him to the selling point in good condition. And you know, a trailer is a big integral part on that. Delivery, drop off time, you know, try to be on time. A little Simple Simon stuff, but it's just amazing how many times I run into this. You know, like, when are you open? We'll try to fit those gaps. You know, you are dealing with cattle. It's an elusive thing. They don't always go in the pen. You have a blowout, you have a flat tire, make a little adjustments for that. You know when the busy time is at your drop off point, you might want to try to avoid it. You know, it's a rush at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. Well, you know, come at 8 or come the day before. Share detail on your stock, you know, with your market operator. Did you wean them? Did you castrate them? He can see that. But did you vaccinate them? Are they bred cows? You know, are they young? What are they bred to? You know, if you got a little herd, you know, if you're selling a big group, you know, make a phone call. Say, hey, I got a bigger group coming. You know, just want to give you a heads up. You know, plan on being there this time. You know, just little things like that can help assist in your selling. Okay. Next slide, if you can. Genetics. If you get one thing out of this little webinar, this is probably the most important slide. Like, if you dozed off, that's fine. But this is probably the most important thing. Or I could have probably done this all in 5 minutes. But focus. You know, if we're talking about a small little herd, little startup kind of guy, you know, part-time ranch, you know, focus on your bull. That is the most important player on your team. He's half your herd. His genetics can cover up quite a few mistakes on some cows. If you've got a decent pasture, you got a decent cow, you buy a really good bull, you can produce a good sellable commodity type calf that will bring good money at your local auction. Okay. So what do I mean by that? I'm not a breed advocate. I at West Auction, I like anything with 4 legs. So yeah, if I offend somebody, sorry for your luck, but you asked me to give you my opinion, and that is what I'm doing right here. Produce a calf that is this is kind of jargon, black, yellow, or redneck. What does that mean? Black Angus, certified Angus beef. It's for real. They produce a good steak. They have some good qualities. Are they the best? Arguable, but they do well. The market kind of demands that. You can also have Hereford in there. You want to have half or more of the English breed in your calf. That maximizes the points that he can be destined to. He has a better chance of going north, surviving the cold winters, a better chance of marbling, a better chance of having a desirable outcome with that steak. Half or less continental. Your Charolais, your Simmental, your meteor type breeds. If you get too much of those, the cattle tend to get like really big. They don't quite have the marbling that industry is quite looking for, but they really put a punch and they really put the pounds on these English type, smaller kind of cattle. So you need a little of that in there to balance that animal out to have a good, desirable product for when you bring them to the barn. Or, a redneck, a good red baldy, not necessarily a straight bred Hereford, but a Hereford cross, hybrid vigor, marbling, growth, efficiency, performance. And since we are in the South, it helps to have a little Brahman influence, but you want to try to keep that a quarter or less. The Bremer cattle will do a little better. They're a little tougher, a little more hybrid vigor. But if you get too much of a quarter, then their chances of going farther north are limited. So this right here is kind of the main deal of my thing. Like if you get a bad check from when you sell a calf, like a lot of people want to call me and fuss, you might want to go look at your bull. Fuss at him, look at him, study him. Like, well, just study the genetic makeup of him and see what he puts on the ground and really put your focus on that bull. Because you don't have to reinvent the wheel to make a decent calf. You can have a lot of different cows, but if you really focus on that good bull and do some other things, you'll come out pretty good economically. Conformation, they got to have some bone. Bone's a reflection of muscle. You don't want to have them with like a little deer leg on them. They're just never going to grow. They're never going to get big enough. They got to have enough bone to get the muscle mass, and they have to have a solid framework, kind of like a foundation in the house. You pour a bad slab, you put all that weight on it, you're going to have a crack. Pier and beam, you have a bad block, something's going to give. The more weight these things have to get, 12 to 1,500 pounds when they're done. They got to be able to move. They got to be able to forage. They got to be able to get to feed. They got to be able to breed. They have to hold all that weight. So conformation is very important. That's probably one of the first things they look for is, is he structurally correct? Okay. Weight, what weight do I sell them at? That can be kind of like looking at a mirage in a desert, like, man, those full weights are bringing a lot of money. I'm going to sell them then. But by the time you get there, seasons change. They might be buying calves for wheat pasture, or, some type of grazing scenario. But by the time your calf gets there, it's changing. That can be an elusive figure. When you get close, let's say you got some weighing 475, you're thinking about going to 5.5, you might pick up the phone, say, hey, what's the price break on that? We can walk through that. Sometimes, it might only be $25. Hey, my cows need a break, sell them a little lighter. I like to let your cost help determine your size of when you sell. Like, yeah, I really want to sell a 600-pound calf, but is it going to cost you way more money to get that extra 100 pounds on them where it's not economically viable? know your cost of gain, know your production cost, and and kind of, the old 205-day adjusted weaning weight is pretty good scenario. When they get in that 7-month range, you need to be kind of looking at, is he ready to go? How's my grass look? How's my cows look? Do they need a break? Things like that. Pounds usually trump price. Raise a bigger calf, better calf. He's going to bring more dollars per head on average. Not always, but if you go for raising pounds 8 times out of 10, you're gonna come ahead, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of trying to guess the market, because that's just next to impossible. Next slide. Health. One thing you can hardly sell, I don't care where you're at, is a sick calf. I mean, it just, 2% of them are gonna die. That's penciled into everything. Some guys figure a 10% death loss on some of these high risk cattle. Anything you can do to minimize that, and they will have a look to them, to the trained eye. Genetics is a big part of that. Straight bred cattle have a little less immune system rather than the hybrid bigger. When you cross them, they get a little tougher. Maximize your health. Castrate. We sell bull calves, every week, bunches of them, and I don't mind them at all. But like last week, they're on a 5-weight bull versus a 5-weight steer, kind of 550 and up. It was a 10 to 20 cent spread on the bull versus steer. That's $50 to $100 per head that you could have made in 2 or 3 minutes. So pretty good wages on getting those calves castrated. Vaccinate. Blackleg. Well, I give blackleg. Okay, yeah, that's okay. But what they really need is a respiratory. They're going to have to go a lot of miles, a lot of journeys, several different places before they reach their final destination. Anything you can do to help maximize that health, it might not benefit you in your pocket today, but I guarantee it will reflect down the road. And it's just the right thing to do. It doesn't cost that much, $1 or $2, maybe $3 a head. And if you can do that, those animals, it's amazing how much better they look coming through the ring if they've been properly cared for. Look at your hair coat. This is a good indicator of health. Like, you buy that black bull, that Angus bull, you put them on your cows. It's last I checked my truck, it was 102. And that little black calf comes running through the ring, and he's got like a shag carpet for a hair coat. Okay, why did he not shed his hair? What's wrong with that animal? That buyer has to look at him, or I have to look at him and price him accordingly. It's like, well, why is he not slicked off? Because it's plenty hot, but he's still got his winter coat on. So that hair coat's going to tell you a lot about their health. Is it nutrition? Is it lungs? Is it genetics? But pay attention to that hair coat. And like in the wintertime, if you've got a calf that grew no hair, and it's a cold day and you decide to sell him, well, they're going to look at that and say, well, the calf won't grow any hair. He's not going to go very far north and perform like I need him to. So pay attention to that hair coat. That'll tell you a lot about an animal. Body condition, flesh, how thin, how fat. Think about picking your little kickball team in 2nd grade. Are you going to pick the quarterback looking kid, lean, muscular, good bone, can run like an antelope? Are you going to pick that little fat kid, eating a Sunday, crying for mama, 30 pounds overweight? Which one is going to perform better when they leave your ranch? I'm not saying leave pounds on the table and bring me a thin, lean calf. I'm not saying that. But if you've got like a lot of those little heifers, even some of those little black heifers, they'll get so fat when the grass is good, they'll have little pones of fat on their tail head, like where their tail comes out of their body. There'll be little pounds of fat. Well, that sucker's had a very, very good home, and it's going to be hard for the next guy to maintain that body condition and make him perform as good as he did at your place. So when you have something like that, maybe grow him a little bit longer. Maybe you need more cows. Maybe you got too much grass. You got a chance to stock your place a little more and make a little bit leaner, more a little better product that'll perform better for the next guy. Next slide. Disposition, gentle cattle perform better. They just do. If it's a lot better to put pounds on one if they're coming to you versus throwing their tail up and running away. Do what you can. Genetic selection. Spend some time with them. Put a handle on them. Okay, what does that mean? Basically, manners. If you do a little rotational grazing, move them through a gate. Maybe put them in your pens. Sort on them a little bit. Make them respect, when you step in front of them without getting hurt, make them respect your stop where they know how to get handled. That way, when they leave your ranch and somebody else handles them, it's just, it's nothing to it. It minimizes their stress. They've been down this road before. It's kind of like a good kid versus a bad kid. The good kid's just going to sit there and say, yes, sir. The bad kid's going to mess up and do bad. Ride your horse to them. Drink a beer with them. Just sit in the truck and just sit, and just enjoy what you're doing. Spend a little time with them. Build relationships. It's very much a people game. When that animal comes in, I don't associate it. Well, that's so-and-so's calf. I got to make it. No, we're selling the animal for what it is in the deal. But if you don't do what's right, and if you don't present that good product that does well for the next guy, it's a very small world. And folks, they will find out, and they'll somewhat shun you, or they won't do it again. So have relationships with who you do business with. Put a face with the calf. Put a face with the calf, and anyway, try to just build a relationship with who you do business with. How will your cattle perform? Think about the next step. Like, a lot of people don't, they drop the calf off, they want their check. That's great. But how are they gonna perform for the next guy? If you set that animal up right, and if he's gonna do really well, be efficient, not die, he's already castrated, he's weaned, he's vaccinated, do something. Even if he's not weaned, is he gonna perform for the next guy really well? That's part of the price discovery in what we do. We're kind of, we're guessing performance in there. So if you can provide a product that has good performance, that's where you put dollars in your pocket. And take pride in what you do. It's a privilege to ranch. It really is. And just take pride in it. Be frugal, but good stewards. Where I see most failures is like, let's say, pasture management. Take care of your country. If you've got good grass and good water and decent genetics, you can raise a pretty good product. Cattle are pretty amazing. But man, you overstock, you overgraze, let the weeds come, nothing to eat. Then you have to really pour the inputs in, and then you get behind the 8 ball, and then your product is not as good. So really take care of your country. You getting started, keep your money in things that will make you money. Delay the things that will depreciate. You don't have to have a brand new truck. You really don't even have to have a trailer. You can call a guy to haul for $100 bill. You know, you can save some money on doing little things like that. You don't need a brand new tractor. Maybe you can get by. Maybe you can use a neighbor. Do some of those things till you get some money. When the tax man says, "Hey, you got a little money over here," okay, well, let's buy a tractor. I don't know. I see a lot of people that overinvest getting started, and it puts them behind the eight ball, and then they wonder why they can't, get ahead on this deal. You can utilize some local day labor when needed. All right, well, I don't have time to cut my calves. Pick up the phone, call your barn, say, "Hey man, I got some calves I'd like to work. You know anybody?" Yeah, they know people. A lot of those guys carry the vaccines with them. They can do all that stuff. It'll cost a little bit of money, but you're going to have a healthier, better product to sell. I've seen a lot of herds get really turned around once they let, somebody come in and work those cattle for them, or, learn to do it yourself. You need to be frugal, but you can't starve a profit out of cattle. You gotta provide them all they need. I'm not saying, starve them to death, but, figure out your most economical cost of gain, inputs, just they still have to have their feed requirements. And, if you're going to spend money, or where I see people make mistakes is probably one of your first investments is work toward a decent set of corrals or pens, because it can get really frustrating if you don't have any kind of way to handle those cattle, to pen those cattle. Let's say you got a few calves to work. Well, if you can get them in a pen and all of that guy has to do is show up and just run them through the chute or pinch them behind the gate or something, it's going to save you a lot of money there. Or if you decide to sell this day, but if you don't have any kind of corral set up, it makes it real frustrating over the long haul. And I like to see people spend a little money on that and utilize your resources. God, oh boy, you're going to need him. He's already on your side. You're going to learn how to pray. You're going to pray for rain. You're going to pray for that calf to live. You're going to pray for, good markets, but it's all good, involve your family. One of the privileges, we can take our kids, we can take our spouse to the pasture, we can involve them, just really good stuff. And find you a mentor. Find you a neighbor that's been doing it for a long time. Maybe you're a Selborne guy or something like that. It looked like, hey, that guy looks like he's got it going on, ask him a question, become his friend, soak up knowledge, just that's basically how a lot of people learn. And always, like when you're producing a calf, ask yourself, would you eat them? Would you sit down and be proud to eat a steak off the calf you raised? Did you eat him right? Is it going to be tender? Did it cost a fortune to get him there? Did he do it efficiently? It's just a reflection of your work, and that'll kind of tell the tale if you're doing a good job. These are some cattle that were a week away from harvest, and a lot of people see their calves, but they don't get to see them when they're ready to be harvested. And this is what we're kind of all looking for when they step in the ring is their outcome. Your calves are primarily going for steaks. Your slaughter cows, your slaughter bulls are primarily going for hamburger. So we're talking mostly, feeder calves. And these are just, I wanted to show you some of these pictures to give you a little idea about what I'm talking about. Like this genetic cross, you got a black-hided animal here. It's definitely, I don't know the true genetic makeup of it, but it's got a little bit of Brahman influence. You can see a little dewlap. You can see a little bit, hanging underneath. The ears aren't totally round. They got a little bit of a point to them, but it's predominantly Angus. As big and as stout as it is, I would say it has to have a little bit of continental breeding in it. I don't know where that came from, but the structure, the bone structures, the size of the bone, the way it's standing, it's holding that 1,300 pounds up. very well, moving around. This is a summertime. This is in the panhandle of Texas. So it's slicked off, the health, the hair coat's kind of showing you the health, just an example of a decent kind of black calf that did good in the yard. Next one. This one, if you took the hide off, you got a different genetics, you got a different color in this one too, red. If you go back one, please, to the yellow calf, the yellow baldy.
Are you able to see that slide?
I can see the red one. Oh, there. Okay, here we go. Yellow baldy. Little more ear. Good bone, good structure, lots of meat yield. Looks like he'll marble. The guy created a calf that produced good with a different set of cows than the first calf. But this is what I'm talking about, that genetic makeup. Try to balance out those breeds to where they can produce something that'll look somewhat like this. Now you can go to the red one. Same kind, little different genetic makeup, different color, but still the bones there, the crosses there, the meat's there, the marbling's there, should produce a good desirable product. And the next one, if you can. Another good black animal did, they're all on feed the same amount of days. And look at the different, like when I talk about efficiency, look how that one just, performed a little better. Maybe it has a little more continental, breeding to get the size, to get the meat, but it's still a good balance of genetics right there with a good outcome. Next one. Not picking on the Herefords, but and this is definitely a kind of, I would call a plainer end of the Hereford, but I would say 200, 300 pounds less, lighter than the others that we looked at. Same inputs, same time frame. Just didn't quite have the meat yield. Straight bred, doesn't have the hybrid vigor. Maybe got sick once in its life, was behind the others, and therefore didn't produce as many pounds of red meat. Next one. They took the Hereford, they put a little more hybrid vigor in it, close to what I would call a redneck calf, but you can tell. Look at the more hybrid vigor, the more efficiency, the more meat, the more marbling. Just a little bit of cross changed that animal quite a bit and made you a lot better calf. Here's one that I would just call sorry. Same inputs, same time frame, same deal. But like, look at his back, very little to no meat, kind of lacking bone. He's black-hided, but that didn't fix everything. He's got those little nub horns, sticking out on his head. Okay, where did the nub horns come from? Did it come from Coriani? Did it come from Holstein? You know, well, we don't really know, but he just same inputs, same amount of time, same amount of money, and you just don't have that one would not be near as enjoyable to eat as the others we've looked at. They took up kind of a plain Hereford, put a Brahman bull on it, made a little better kind of calf. He might not do good in Nebraska in January, or she might not do good because doesn't have the hair. You know, a little too much Brahman. They're gonna discount her a little bit because Brahman are perceived. So you need to kind of keep them, you know, less than a quarter ear. But she performed well in definitely better than just a straight bred. Next one.
Have you seen that black-hearted calf yet?
No, not yet.
We must have a glitch in our system. It should be loading here shortly.
There it is. Okay. Probably I would say one of the better ones. You know, I mean, look at same time frame, same everything, and look what that one did compared to the others. You know, look at the steaks you're gonna get, the marbling, the efficiency, but it still kind of has that little bit of three-way cross we talked about. You know, it didn't have to have, you know, you can come up with these different kind of crosses with several different things. Just kind of focus on your bull and help him balance out what you have out there in the pasture. And I think that's it, except for the questions.
Brian, could you maybe touch on the market factors a little bit more?
Oh gosh, I think we missed a slide in there.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, we missed a slide in there. Well, and I don't know if you can bring that slide back up.
Yeah, let me try.
Yeah, we darn sure did. You know, kind of what this deal was geared to was like your local sales. So you kind of keep up with their market. Yeah, right there. You know, keep up with their volume. You know, we had those bad drought years. Sales are just bulging everywhere. You know, well, golly, you know that thing lasted 5 or 6 months. It's kind of hard to dodge that, but you know, Mother Nature kind of dictates when a lot of these calves are born. 75% of them are born in the spring. Therefore, 75% of them get sold in the fall. So if you can kind of, you know, October is if I had to dodge any month as a seller, I would probably try to get a breeding program to where I didn't sell then. You know, it always almost 9 times out of 10 will get better after the first of the year. So because there's so many cattle coming in the fall, like nationwide, that, you know, supply and demand is kind of where that goes. So, you know, and if your calves are born in the spring, if you got a chance to wean them or something like that, you know, maybe sell in August, maybe keep them until December, something like that. Try to do something. But when you sell, when those volumes just spike really high, you know, you got to watch out your supply and demand type deal. And sometimes the industry can get a little overweighed. You know, the trends just what's the market doing? Is it going up? Is it going down? If you can kind of keep up weekly or monthly, market reports can be deceiving. You need to kind of do your old statistics, like cut 10 to 15% off the top, 10 to 15% off the bottom, shoot for a middle number, and kind of use that as your guide, because we have to report on the highest animal that sold in the 500 to 599. So is that the real market? No, but we also sold one that was half dead in the same deal. Was that the low of the market? No. So there's a number in the middle there that you have to kind of arrive at. So you kind of need to trim some off the top, trim some off the bottom, and look at your midpoint there to kind of make your decision as to sell or not. Weather, very, very, very weather sensitive. The market is, good rains of spring, good grass. These lightweight calves have good demand. Last year, terrible drought, high feed, no grass. Guess what? It's going to put pressure on those. How do you get around that? Well, that's part of the challenges of the deal. You find a way to grow them, or sell them early, destock, carry them through, part of your cost to gain, and figuring that out. Futures market, I don't really like it. We're a slave to it. The cash trade ought to drive the futures. Cash trade meaning prices out of the feedlot, prices at the sale barns. That should drive the futures, but the futures tend to drive the cash. So it's something that you really need to be aware of, is not so much what all those values are. It can get confusing, but you just look at the trends. They have charts on every month, and the charts go up and they go down. Try to catch the charts going up. You see a big steep down, maybe hold your breath, wait up a little while. Look at the pluses and the minuses on your futures contracts. Do we have an upward trend? Do we have a lower trend? Like if you're thinking about selling your calves next week, pull up your futures market. If we got down, man, and the sky's not falling, maybe wait a week, because that thing goes up and down. You see up and up. Hey, let's sell them this week. That's a pretty good indicator of what these guys have to look at. And I don't really like it, but it's just something we have to pay attention to. Resources, CattleFax has a good app you can put on your phone to follow the futures market and stuff like that. There's a good little show called Feeder Flash by Corbett Wall. He gives you a good explanation of what the market is doing. He's more like, not small herd. He's more big herd. You have to put that into your mind, more into the load lots. Don't be deceived by those prices, but he gives you good trends of what the industry is doing. And he can give you kind of a pulse as to, how hot it is or how hot it's not.
Okay, so some of our questions: will we get docked for having brand on our cattle?
As long as it's not, as long as it heals up. You don't want to brand him right away and then bring him to a barn. If you're going to brand him, it won't hurt. It's going to bring awareness. That they're going to look at him a little bit closer. But as long as the brand is healed and everything looks in order, he should be fine. But if you're going to sell the calf, don't brand him a month before and then load him up and bring him, because they're going, well, why did that guy do that? Because it's out of the norm. And it raises suspicion. And unfortunately, sometimes guys will buy some calves. They can't get them straightened out. They can't get them over it. They will brand them. and they'll run them back through, just trying to salvage out whatever they can. That's why those guys look at those brands a little bit more careful. But if the calf is healthy, bouncing through, they're fine. The brand shouldn't hurt. But I do let the brands heal before you sell them.
What can auction barn owners do, or what should they do to assure that there are no, in quotation marks, winks or nods between buyers of similar purchase orders to restrain raising prices?
That's have more buyers in there and have a, you know, to say that never happens would not be true. But find an auctioneer that is a seller's auctioneer. The seller pays the barn's check. The buyers are extremely important, but the buyers, as long as they get a fair and equal shot, they're satisfied. But if you don't take care of that seller, then he's not going to come. But getting more buyers in there, getting more, better quality, having a better relationship with who you're working with, that will help minimize some of those things. And then too, you also have to look like those guys, they do have to fit that calf in that file. Like if he's got 275 on one and then he gets forced to 3, he's got to somehow fix that average down there, and it does happen. So he's got to lighten his weight. He's got to lighten his price on something to make that file end up being 275. So, if you sold one for 3, it doesn't mean the next one's going to bring 250, but there is, there is nip and tuck, and there is part of that deal, and there is price discovery. Not a perfect system, but it is fair and open, and those guys get paid on pounds, and, it eventually works out being pretty darn honest.
Well, if you have any final questions, please go ahead and submit them in the chat box. We'll give everyone another 30 seconds to get their questions asked. Brian, do you have any final remarks as we're wrapping up?
Man, just I think it's a great industry. I think it's a really good time to have cows. If you got a chance to own some, I'm not seeing people get back in it like I did in 2014 when these prices got so high. I do feel like we're going to have this shortage is going to last. It's for real, and it's going to last a while. There's lots of crazy things in the world, and there's no guarantee in anything, but I do think cattle are good property right now. I really do. Just because of numbers and how hard it is to get established with the land prices and all this things. But if you can somehow find a way to hold those cows and raise some calves, I think you're in the cow calf guys in the driver's seat next 2 or 3 years, 4 years maybe.
How would you recommend selling an injured bull with, say, a broken foot?
If he travels, he can go to a sale. If he cannot travel, and what I mean by travel, he's got to walk at least about 1,000 feet. Got to unload off your trailer, go to a pen, go to the ring, sit in a pen, get on a double deck truck, and go at least 200 miles. Okay, if he can't travel like that, you might want to find a little local packer, that will harvest that animal. A lot of them bid that into the price, and they're, significantly discounted to what they bring, at a local sale. But kind of like talking about the sick calf, we can sell a lot of things, non-ambulatory, crippled animals, sick animals. That's something that's pretty tough to move.
At what age would you recommend cutting calves?
I like around kind of more so size. Like I like to put a little bit of weight on them, like those babies. A lot of people do them then, but I do feel like you get a little more growth if if I had to pick like 200 to 300 pounds, I would say would be ideal. But castrated calf is better than a bull calf, just kind of whenever it works into your schedule. But if you could wait, I don't like to cut them. There's more risk, there's more chance of something going wrong. 4 and up, 5 and up, especially if he's already 5, I would just sell him. Bring him on rather than trying to cut him. But kind of 200 to 300 pounds would be ideal in my opinion.
Do you think you can buy a good herd bull at a market auction?
At times, you can. A breeder is basically, a place to go. Now, can you got 5 cows? Can you afford a $5,000 bull? Okay, that's kind of out of the question. That's where you might need help, getting something. But what I'm saying is spend the most money you can afford on the best genetics you can get to maximize the product you're going to produce. And maybe you buy, a 3-year-old bull. Maybe you find a neighbor that's not using his bull, 6 months out of the year, and you pay him so much a cow or something like that, and work a deal like that. But we can find, you can find a decent bull at local auctions at times. Yes.